as the Olympic Games are taking place in France and the football tournament has already begun for both the men and the women, elsewhere in the country there's some really, really sad news when it comes to one of their most successful teams of all time. That is none other than Bordeaux, who have been... It's just an absolute negative spiral of horribleness, really. I remember Bordeaux. I remember they've been, competing in the Champions League, being a great side in French football. But unfortunately, they are now in the third tier of professional football in France. They were relegated from Ligue 2 down to the National Championship, I believe it's called, or the French equivalent. And now they have just given up their professional status. So what does that mean for the club? Well, let's just go through it. I mean, there was a takeover of the club not that long ago by an American company, and that was received very poorly. They redesigned the badge so that it actually didn't make grammatical sense in French, which just doesn't make any sense at all. But yeah, they were actually relegated by force. It was a punishment for going being in financial disarray, basically. They didn't finish in the bottom four in League. They actually finished mid-table somewhere, a little bit below mid-table maybe. But yeah, this is the first time they've ever played in the third tier. Let me just have a look here. So Bordeaux have said, while discussions had resumed in recent days, FSG representatives of the people who are trying to buy them indicated yesterday on Monday the 22nd of July to FC Girondins de Bordeaux and its shareholders that their desire is not to follow through despite the assurances provided by various stakeholders. Therefore, in the absence of new elements, FC Bordeaux withdrew the appeal lodged against the decision from the DNCG. DNCG are I think they're basically the French equivalent, not the FA, but they're all the people who decide these kind of punishments. You know how Everton and Nottingham Forest have been in trouble with PSR? It's like the French equivalent of that, the people who independently decide these punishments, and they're very, very strict on a lot of stuff like this. They don't mess around at all. But yeah, they were put into administration, demoted down to the third tier, and they still need to prove their budget for the upcoming season. And now their players' contracts have been terminated. They don't have any professional players. And there's a tweet from the Secret Scout basically saying that Bordeaux have folded, the club have formed the FFF, the French Football Federation, that it was renouncing its professional status, which was obtained in 1937. Player contracts will be terminated and the training centre closed in order to reduce the financing needs. It's over. So what happens from here? I mean, they won Ligue 1 6 times in their history. They're one of the biggest clubs in France in that sense. They've regularly competed in Europe as well. It's just been a general kind of downward spiral over the last 13 years or so. And it kind of speaks to the nature of French football right now. I mean, if you're not PSG, you're in trouble financially. You're on the precipice of it. They are spending so much money to try and compete with them, trying to stay in the top division. And on top of that, I think, or at least I heard recently, that there's there's no TV deal that's been agreed. They were with that. They were with a certain broadcaster, and they either folded or pulled out for some reason, and then they went with Amazon Prime. But obviously, since then they've not been able to find a deal. So this is the tip of the iceberg, as they say, and it's really sad to see Bordeaux drop down like this. A club that big no longer existing. That would be the equivalent of, I don't know, a Tottenham Hotspur or a Newcastle or a West Ham going completely out of business in England. It's shocking this has happened to Bordeaux, but it's important news at the end of the day. News for the worst, unfortunately. And we'll bring you hopefully less news like this and more positive stuff, hopefully. But very, very sad to see this. Subscribe, like, ring the bell for more content like this as always, guys. And we'll be back very soon on thefootballchronicle.com.